Okay, it looks like everybody's here. Good afternoon. This is Judge Stanley speaking. Um, Welcome to the Office of Tax Appeals. This hearing is for the appeal of Natural Healing LLC. It is being recorded and live streamed, and the video will be posted on the Office of Tax Appeals YouTube channel. The hearing is being recorded and transcribed electronically. To ensure we have an accurate record, I'm going to ask that each person speaks one at a time, avoids speaking over one another, and speaks loudly and clearly so that the transcription can pick it up. When needed, I or any of my panel members may interject to ensure proper transcription. After the hearing, the Office of Tax Appeals will produce an electronic transcript on request. Just as a reminder, the Office of Tax Appeals is not a court. We are an independent appeals body that is staffed by its own subject matter experts. We are independent of the Franchise Tax Board or any other tax agency. Is everyone ready to proceed? Just give me a thumbs up.
Yes, Judge. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we'll officially go on the record here, even though we're already being recorded. So we're on the record in the appeal of Natural Healing Center LLC, Office of Tax Appeals, case number 240415924. The date is November 19th, 2025. The time is 1:05 p.m. and the hearing is being held electronically with the agreement of the parties. Once again, I am Judge Teresa Stanley. I will be the lead for purposes of conducting the hearing. My co-panelists, Judge Veronica Long and Judge Andrew Wong, and I are equal participants in deliberating and determining the outcome of this appeal. So I'm going to ask the parties to introduce themselves and who they represent, starting with appellant, please.
Matthew McCullough for Natural Healing Center.
John Pelletieri for Natural Healing Center.
Okay, and Franchise Tax Board, please.
Andrea Watkins with the Franchise Tax Board.
Sorry, trouble with my audio. Cynthia Kent with the Franchise Tax Board.
Thank you. So for the issues in this appeal, as stated in the minutes and orders, the issues to be decided in the appeal are: one, whether appellant established reasonable cause to abate the late payment penalty for taxable years 2018, 2019, or 2020. And the second one is whether appellant has established a basis to waive the penalty for underpayment of estimated tax for 2018, 2019, or 2020. Is that correct, Mr. McCullough?
Yes, that's correct.
And Ms. Watkins, do you agree that's correct as well?
Yes, I do.
Okay, appellant submitted exhibits 1 through 3. The Franchise Tax Board did not object to the admissibility of those exhibits, so they are admitted into evidence at this time. The Franchise Tax Board submitted exhibits A through R. Appellant did not object to the admissibility of those exhibits, and they are also admitted into evidence. We will not be swearing anyone in today because neither party is presenting any witnesses to testify under oath or affirmation. Mr. McCullough, you requested 15 minutes for your presentation, and you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Judge. Natural Healing filed, their prior accountants filed their 2018, 2019, and 2020 California returns under Form 568, which was done incorrectly. They were done as if they were a single member LLC. When we took over the filing of the returns for Natural Healing in late 2020, we had discovered that this error I'm sorry, in late 2021, we had discovered this error in the filings, and we filed the amended returns for 2018, 2019, and 2020, since they had checked the box on Form 8832 to be treated as a corporation back in 2018. This was confirmed by the IRS and also confirmed by California. We had voluntarily filed these returns to be correct in our filings for Natural Healing to be correct in their filings, and we submitted the returns. We ended up having them pay the additional tax and interest and penalties that were assessed. We did file a refund claim for the penalties, stating that they had relied on their prior accountant. We were trying to get them into compliance. They had not been notified of any errors that had been done in the previous filings. So we were just trying to bring them into compliance with the correct filings. There was no harm to the state done by this, and we requested that the penalties be refunded. They were not refunded. It is still our request now that they be refunded, being that the taxpayer came forward once this error was discovered to file the correct returns, and they had done so on their own accord. And that is what we're still requesting today, so that they're requesting that the paid penalties be refunded back to the taxpayer.
Judge, can I expand upon that for a moment?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just talking to ask whether you wanted to do that, but I forgot to unmute. So yes, you can go ahead and proceed.
Thank you. Yeah, just to follow up on what Mr. McCullough was saying, it was our feeling that they filed the right tax ID number. They paid the tax in advance of when it should have been paid, and there was no effort to circumvent any system. It was, they had all the income and all the activity reported on the wrong return, not underreported, not reported, just reported on an individual return versus the corporate return, which is why it was our feeling to say, okay, reasonably then you got your tax when it was due, probably a little more because it was at a higher rate. And, it was, that's why we think reasonably that penalty, we would hope you would consider that, being that if the essence of this was they should have filed it on a corporate return, they filed it on an individual return. So that is why we are looking for the relief.
Okay, thank you. Does that conclude appellant's presentation?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Okay, Judge Long, do you have any questions for appellant?
I'm going to hold my questions until after Franchise Tax Board's presentation. Thank you.
Okay, Judge Wong, do you have any questions for appellant?
I had no questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, and I do not either. But I'm gonna, just before I go to Franchise Tax Board's presentation, I had forgot to include a post pre-hearing conference exhibit that was submitted by the Franchise Tax Board. They submitted exhibit S, as in Sam, which is page 3 of forms 568 for the tax years at issue 2018 through 2020. Mr. McCullough, did you see that exhibit?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and do you have any objection to entering it into evidence?
I do not.
Okay, then exhibit S will also be admitted into evidence, and we'll move on to Franchise Tax Board's presentation. Ms. Watkins, you requested 10 minutes for your presentation, and you may begin when you are ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The issue on appeal is whether appellant has established a basis to abate the late payment or estimate penalties imposed for the 2018, 2019, or 2020 tax years. As discussed in FTB's opening brief, appellant late paid its corporate tax, and FTB properly imposed late payment and estimate penalties. A late payment penalty may only be abated upon a showing of reasonable cause. While reliance on a tax professional may constitute reasonable cause, the reliance must be on a substantive matter of tax law. The taxpayer must have fully disclosed all relevant facts to the tax professional and the taxpayer must have otherwise exercised ordinary business care and prudence. California conforms to the federal check-the-box regulations, which allow an LLC to elect to be taxed as a corporation. In 2017, the appellant elected to be taxed as a corporation, and the election was effective for all tax years on appeal. This means that appellant was required to file California corporation income tax returns and pay tax at the corporate tax rate. However, appellant mistakenly filed LLC returns and only paid the lesser LLC tax and fees, leaving a significant amount of tax unpaid. Although appellant argues that it relied on a former accountant to file the correct returns and pay the correct tax, filing the correct tax returns and remitting timely and correct tax payments are ministerial acts and are not based in substantive tax law. The OTA held in the appeal of Summit Hosting LLC that reliance on an expert cannot function as a substitute for compliance with an unambiguous statute. FTB sent appellant a notice to file corporation tax returns in August of 2021. Yet appellant did not respond until about 7 months later in March of 2022 when it filed its corporate returns, and didn't pay its outstanding corporate tax until 8 months later in May of 2022. Appellant has not explained why it took so long to correctly file and pay after it received FTB's notice. A taxpayer exercising ordinary business care and prudence would have ensured that their tax payments were made timely. And while an estimate penalty may not be abated for reasonable cause, it may be waived by reason of casualty, disaster, or when the imposition would be against equity and good conscience. However, these exceptions do not apply in this case. FTB properly imposed late payment and estimate penalties for the tax years on appeal, and appellant has not established a basis upon which they may be abated. I request that FTB's refund claim denials be affirmed, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the panel.
This is Judge Stanley speaking. Does that conclude Franchise Tax Board's presentation?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and Mr. Pelletier, you were probably going to ask if you could respond. I'm going to give you an opportunity after we're done here.
Thank you.
Judge Long, do you have any questions for the Franchise Tax Board?
Yes, I do. I'd like to confirm with Franchise Tax Board that the underpayment was caused because the LLC tax is less than the corporate tax, and that was the cause of the underpayment?
That's correct.
All right. And I also want to confirm my understanding that the amounts that were paid by the taxpayers, by the appellant here, was applied with its original effective date to the corporate return?
That's correct, yes.
All right, that concludes my questions for Franchise Tax Board. Thank you.
Okay, Judge Wong, do you have any questions for the Franchise Tax Board?
I did not. Thank you.
Okay, and I don't either at this time, so we'll go ahead and send it back to appellant. You can, between the two of you, you can make a rebuttal statement or any comments that you want to at this point.
Okay. And thank you for that explanation, Ms. Watkins. So the essence here, the fact that they paid their state income tax individually, because they did pay these taxes individually for those years, doesn't and filed all the right returns and the information with the same ID number, albeit not on a corporate return, but on a different return. Just by virtue of that, they get locked into the penalties for non-failure to file the corporate return, even though they met their obligations for all the activity in this entity was reported, albeit it was reported on the wrong entity type. That's what I'm having trouble understanding. If that's the rules, that's the rules. It seems incongruent to me if that's how it would work, but it may be.
Okay, before I'm going to actually ask the Franchise Tax Board to address your question. But before that, I wanted to ask you if the taxpayers also filed amended returns.
Yes,
Okay, so they got taxed back.
correct,
They got refunds.
correct, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Ms. Watkins, can you please respond to the question?
Yeah, and just to clarify, I did check the shareholders' personal tax accounts for those years. And they didn't get refunds because they didn't pay the self-assessed liability at the time of the original filing. But they, FTB did accept the amended returns and did reduce the tax that was owed. And then as to your question, the appellant in this case is Natural Healing. And so it is separate from the shareholders' personal tax accounts. And because the corporate tax was not paid timely, the imposition of the late payment penalties was proper. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Ms. Watkins. Do you have anything further to add, Mr. Pelletieri?
Look, the penalties seem very large for a filing that was done that just wasn't done on the right form. There was no intention. That then their prior CPA obviously missed this because we got brought in and we uncovered it. It just seems to the detriment that they seem to be getting hurt twice unnecessarily. If there was no filing, I totally get it, but the not filing on the right return to have all these penalties, I don't even see how California was hurt by that, other than a procedural process that says you should have filed it on this color, but you filed it on that color, and now because you used the wrong color, we're going to have these penalties. It's not just sitting right with me. If that's how you guys view it, I would just want to understand what our rights are, just to dig a little deeper, because it's just not matching. It just seems they're getting hurt incorrectly for something that really was outside of their control. And that's my view. And obviously I'm biased to the taxpayer, but I just want to understand, is there anything in the law that gives you some latitude to do that? Because look, there are situations where the penalties are warranted, and I completely understand. This is just not sitting right because they did file everything just on the wrong form. The state of California, although not franchise tax board, the state did get, in fact, a higher tax than they would have gotten under the franchise tax board. So it's just not lining up, logically to me, and that just, it may be how it is.
Okay, Mr. McCullough, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add this time.
Okay. Judge Long, do you have any final questions for either party?
I do. First, I'm going to ask Franchise Tax Board to confirm. My understanding is that there was no late filing penalty imposed, but there was a late payment penalty imposed. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. FTB used the previous file date of the incorrect Form 568, the LLC returns. So FTB applied those earlier file dates to the corrected corporate returns. So no late filing penalty was imposed.
All right, thank you, Franchise Tax Board. My other question is for appellants. I want to confirm and clarify that you stated that the mistake was that there was a C Corp election and then Form 568 was filed. I would like to clarify, was the mistake filing the C Corp election or was the mistake filing the Forms 568?
It was intended to be a C Corp from the beginning. And somewhere in the translation, the accountant either misplaced it or did not remember what was done. So the intention was the C Corp from day one. It just, and it was approved. It just wasn't filed that way.
All right, that concludes my questions for both parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Wong, do you have any questions for either party at this time?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, and just to clarify the first part of what you said, Ms. Watkins, in your response to appellant's question, did you say the taxpayers did not receive a refund because they didn't pay?
Yeah, so at the time that the amended returns were filed, there was still an outstanding tax liability. So that was just reduced.
Okay, all right, thank you. With that, we're going to conclude the hearing in the appeal of Natural Healing Center LLC. We are off the record officially. We're still being recorded. Thank you to all of you for participating here today. The panel will meet and deliberate and decide your case, and we will issue a written opinion within 100 days. So the Office of Tax Appeals is now in recess, and the next appeal is scheduled to begin at 1:50 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.